So is this weird for anybody else? The cold, dead expression of my face? Despite the feeling, the love, the passion that comes from my voice that cannot be expressed due to the face that I've been given. This frozen featured face that contradicts everything I'm doing and everything I am and everything I've done. Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to the month of monsters, Frankenstein Week. Today we're talking about Boris Karloff in 1931's Frankenstein. This is an iconic film that should be no surprise to anyone, is one of the most famous Frankenstein adaptations of all time, and is probably directly responsible for Universal making monster films in general. This film follows scientist Dr. Frankenstein on his goal to play God, to put people back together and make his own creation. It's not always the best thing for the creation. No one thinks about the creation's feelings. But Frankenstein creates his own monster, known as Frankenstein's monster, but also known as Frankenstein because Frankenstein has a last name. If he creates something that is his child would have the same last name, legally, so technically calling Frankenstein's monster Frankenstein isn't wrong. It's just calling somebody by their last name. But on that note, Neca, of course, has been doing some awesome Ultimate Universal Monsters figures, as we've seen all month long. And the first one that was released, Frankenstein. So, of course, let's take a look at this figure and see if he's awesome.
So much like the other Neca Ultimate figures, we have a nice shot of the Frankenstein movie poster on the front of the box, just giving it a nice, inviting look at Frankenstein. On one side, we have a shot of Frankenstein looking all cool and stuff. On the other side, Frankenstein looking menacing and scary. On the back, we have a collage of images, not as exciting as some of the others. This was Neca's first Ultimate Universal Monster figure. The packaging's a little bit of a letdown. Just like always, a Velcro lock. Open it up, see the figure inside. This figure is exquisite. You have these wonderful details of Frankenstein's monster from head to toe. The costume work is great, and I like the color. It's not a bright green, but a more skin-like green. Something I wish I had. Even to the back, you can see the folds of the fabric are sculpted into the figure. The joints are not painted over, so you can see them, but therefore they won't break, unlike a certain nightmare demon that happened earlier this month. This head sculpt is pretty fantastic. It's based on the poster art, I think, with the way that the eyes are positioned, but it's got a nice, really cool, realistic detail. I love the red around the bolts in the neck. I love the red scar in the head, the single bolt on one side. It's got a very nice, realistic tone to it, which I think is what I really like about this color edition. Looking at the hands, you can see more of that scarring detail, more of that colored texture work. It's not so much that we know what the color of Frankenstein in that movie was, but the fact we can see it and have kind of a representation of it, I think is really cool. I don't think the shoes are anything to write home about, except for the fact that those were really tall shoes. Articulation-wise, the head is on a ball joint and get a lot of range of movement, which is really, really nice. Shoulders that move out, shoulders that move 360 degrees. You have an elbow bend, single joint, and a swivel. Swivel at the wrist, in and out wrist. Waist joint, hips that move forward, hips that move out. Thigh swivel, single knee joint. It's a tight bend, and it rotates. And then we also have an ankle that pivots forward, back, left, and right. The first alternate head for Frankenstein gives him kind of this face, which is kind of cool and expressive. I kind of like it. I like the way that Boris Karloff would have one side of the mouth be sort of dead and one side of the mouth actually working, which, yeah, I'd take any part of my mouth working at this point in life. And then we have my favorite head, which is this expressive, sort of angry, sort of face, which I think is just the most expressive out of all of them, and I love the way that the shading's been done with the wrinkles in the face. It's just really, really good. To go alongside that, he has an alternate set of hands with the fingers extended into that pose that we were kind of going for with that head. I really, really like the way this looks. It gives him a lot more dynamic look than him just standing there. He also does come with the chains and shackles like you would expect. Now these you need to remove the hands, pop the shackles on, pop the hands back in. But once you do, they look really nice. I like the weathered detail, they look old, they look rusted, and I think that gives it a nice depth of character to it. He also includes an alternate set of hands as well as the flowers. This is from an iconic scene in the movie, one of which if you know where these flowers go. And if you don't, you should go watch the movie again. Being a 7-inch scale figure, he stands and towers over a Marvel Legends figure. He's very tall, very imposing, and I think the scale works really good. As you can see him next to the Jada Toys Frankenstein, even with the platform raising up the Jada one, he's still way shorter than the 7-inch Frankenstein. So while the 6-inch Frankenstein for Jada is not a bad scale, the 7-inch is definitely outclassing him in size. And then of course he pairs incredibly well with Neca's Ultimate the Mummy and Neca's Ultimate the Wolfman. I love these three and I can't wait for more to enter this lineup because honestly, these figures are just fantastic. They're some of my favorite figures I've ever gotten. Now of course, there was a black and white and a retro Mummy and a black and white and a retro Wolfman. Was it the same for Frankenstein? Well of course, here's the black and white approximation of the Frankenstein figure, which I think actually released prior to the color or was solicited first. It was the first time we knew that they were doing two different color variations. Once again, I did not pick it up as I do prefer the color versions overall. And then there is a retro carded Frankenstein, which I would love to have, but for whatever reason, Target shipped the retro cards in time for Halloween, except only Wolfmans and Mummies popped up in my area and others. I didn't see anyone finding the Frankenstein one. Hopefully my pre-order will fill at some point in the future, it just didn't make it in time for Month of Monsters. So overall, when it comes to the NECA Ultimate Universal figures, yet again, it is the ultimate experience for Frankenstein. I love the way this figure looks, the way he poses, the details, the accessories. He just feels like a full, complete package. What's also wonderful is NECA is releasing an additional accessory set for him to give him his own operating table and a few extra parts, which is nice to see. I do like that NECA's not afraid of doing accessory sets for their figures. It's really, really cool and something that them as a smaller company can do. So I look forward to more Frankenstein and more Universal in the future from NECA, but this is going to be concluding the NECA Ultimate Universal figures for the Month of Monsters.
So that does it for the NECA Frankenstein. An excellent figure for an excellent line, and I'm honestly really excited to see where more NECA Ultimate figures come from. Now tomorrow we're going to follow up on a promise. We're going to talk about Mego for the last time on Month of Monsters. And we're going to look at 5 different Mego figures related to Frankenstein. Stay tuned, it's coming at you tomorrow. Month of Monsters ain't done yet.